Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We're so excited to be here right now. And I got Ryan next to me, my partner in crime. Not crime, my partner. We are Christians. We're not going to be doing crime here. This is episode 3. We're going to talk about how loving yourself first isn't selfish, it's sacred. If you don't mind, Ryan, I'm going to start off with this a little bit. I am very grateful, first and foremost, that if you are tuning in with Ryan and I, this episode is for you. Today, we're talking about why loving yourself isn't selfish and how it's sacred. And as you get to know me, sometimes show humor to cover up me making mistakes or when I'm uncomfortable with something and I want to make people at ease. So when I think about this, loving yourself first isn't selfish. Being a nurse and I'm also a firstborn child. This is hard for me to wrap around because I have always cared for others. And I feel as though if I can care for others and fix them, I've put myself last in a lot of different ways. And I have learned over the last 16 months that loving yourself is okay. And it's not selfish because if you can love yourself, I've never not loved myself, but the way I show love is giving to others and to help fixing others. And truly, the way to love, if you can love yourself wholly, you can give to others so much more. Loving myself, I've taken care of myself in the aspect of I get massages, I get my hair done, I go to saunas, like all of that. I've always taken care of myself, but I haven't taken care of myself when I look back.
Can I give the guy perspective on this one?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we talk about like really loving ourselves and it not being selfish, it's that aspect of, as a man, as a husband or ex-husband, I guess now, in the Bible, we're there to provide and protect. And so from my side of the street, I think I look at it as yeah, we take care of ourselves, but it's like having boundaries to like establish like what does that mean to really, have yourself like the self-confidence to, be the, maybe not so much the breadwinner. I mean, that's not what I guess I'm getting at from this perspective. I think it's the aspect of establishing those boundaries to know like when it's okay to kind of conform, depending if it's a partnership or what type of relationship or marriage as the man, when it comes to what does that look like, not the old like 1950s and 60s, like, our grandparents probably where the man came home and like, dinner was on the table, his cigarettes and newspaper in his favorite chair and all these things. Like it's, and it was like waiting on him on hand and foot. But I think it's more just that like the dignity and respect aspect of like when somebody does provide, and does protect, like what does that encompass? What does that entail? I mean, I know it's different for you as you continue to be, a nurse and kind of being the one who provides, protects, and heals for the family. And, I know for myself in a previous life, yeah, I was all in, if it was Fortune 500 or if it was my service in the military, I took multiple deployments so my family could stay in the same place and be comfortable while I, left for a year and was probably very uncomfortable. And, does that mean that I was able to have a boundary and love myself? I don't really think so. I think my perspective's changed from that. And like, when we ask, our partners or our friends or whomever they may be to like change and take on something that, would we even do that ourselves? I don't know. I mean, I'd certainly rather, go get a manicure or pedicure or go to the spa or red light or, whatever that looks like for that self-care. But I think when I really think about it, I think of like God's love for us and really like, what are we asking from those we love when it comes to like self-care? Is it that aspect of like, hey, I'll call you when I'm ready, either don't call or maybe you call a lot. And, it could be that aspect too of like when we give each other time and space, are we, really present for, what that request is? Because I've struggled with that. I struggle with boundaries. I'm a people pleaser. I don't want to be the guy that like, I don't text you back, within the first like 30 seconds of receiving a text, if I'm like busy, and then that's like not kind to those that you're with because you're not being present with, whoever you're spending time with. I don't know where that sacred aspect comes into play. I got a lot of work to do when it comes to self-love, self-care, and those boundaries.
Yeah, self-love is a hard one. Self-care, at times I feel like I really have given myself care. The saying, you can't pour from an empty cup, and God never asked us to. I took that to a whole nother level. Being a nurse and a people pleaser and working for my family, I just thought it was easier because I call nursing is can be a curse and a blessing at the same time. The blessing is you get to take care of other people and fill in for people that can't be at work and fill in for those patients in need. And you can make really good money. The curse is you can get sucked into that also. And as a people pleaser and wanting to make sure that my family was okay and that we had the house that we needed to have or I thought we needed to have and do all the things, I'm like, no worry, like I can just go to work. I can pick up. And that's when it becomes a curse.
Or
And
not
I'm kind
having
of going off on a
No, but
tangent right now.
I think like that's something I'd like to tease out a little bit more for you when you're talking about, I was used to being salary in the military. So I always knew, depending on, not to get political here, but like, whoever was in office, would get a raise or not. Otherwise it was, pretty much every 2 years, you'd finally see, an increase. So you really had to like be very careful about living within your means. I think that takes a different definition for you with being hourly. You have your set schedule from a certain perspective, but you can pick up, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
and so like, what does that look like when it comes to having boundaries and establishing,
I
that?
did not have good boundaries.
Yeah.
There was a period in my life for 7 years. My kids did not drive in the same car as me. I worked for interventional radiology. I was on my pager and I thought, well, easy. I can get paid for sleeping. I can get paid for breathing because I'd be on my pager and that will help my family. And there was times God did bless me because I didn't get called in. But I think about what I sacrificed myself for my family. I didn't set boundaries, and I will take full accountability for that. Setting boundaries as a nurse, and I think I'm not just speaking for myself, is hard for a lot of us. The people pleasing, there's a lot of us that become nurses because of what happened or how we grew up in our childhood, that we wanted to make sure everybody around us was okay. It was hard to say yes to ourselves and say yes to other people. I've learned loving yourself is about setting boundaries with grace, speaking kindly to yourself, and saying yes to rest, peace, and space. I'm learning that. My faith in God has gotten me through all of my working hours and through life. And this is where I am.
So no, I mean, I guess like the one aspect of it is like, for me, walking that line of, getting to not play God, but when you're a soldier and you get to go to combat and, it's something you train for. A couple of units, we got to train quite a long time for it. And again, I guess I was going to ask you about the aspect of like, did you ever kind of look at yourself as like playing God when you could pick up those hours, right? And like you could, whatever it may be, like almost like if you're living outside your means, would you have to then, run the gamut of picking up hours that, basically be like having a second, third, or fourth job? And,
Oh, heck yeah.
and, where, kind of those boundary aspects of like, we're, really what type of impact does that have, on ourselves? to go back to back to back, if you're working 16-hour days, and so forth, and you're doing that back to back to back, the impact that it has on you and, how that has it on your family, your friends, whomever it may be, coworkers and so forth, that stress that builds up and maybe some resentments. Yeah. I don't know if you want to unpackage any of that.
Well, this could be another episode for another time talking about addiction, but we'll talk about that another
Well,
podcast.
that'll be multiple podcasts. We're going to
Yes.
get addiction.
I feel like I've always hustled and worked hard to get what I wanted. What I did not do is to teach the people around me to work hard and hustle beside me.
Yeah.
I just took over, hoping that they would step up. And when I say this, I'm talking about another business that I did also. I worked for a company and I got a $10,000 bonus, and I got all these nurses to believe and come on with me. And I ended up failing because it was easier for me just do it than teach it. And then people started depending on me. And that was me being a caregiver. Like, oh, I don't want to mess up their evening, so I'll mess up my own evening.
Yeah.
And then that took away from my family.
It's certainly a blessing and a curse. The people that you're pleasing, they love it. They'll take full advantage of it. And when it comes to establishing, self-love and boundaries, boy, you just give me the shovel, because you're just digging that grave for yourself.
Yeah.
We used to have a saying all the time in the military. It was called, hope's not a method. You got to have action. It's one of those things where, I do believe in faith, hope, and love. It creates life, and, life's amazing. But in that, you need to have the action. And I know it's one where, as we try to keep these as short as possible to keep the listeners engaged, I know something that we're looking at here this week is, what's one way we can show love to ourselves? And we always focus on writing things down. Journaling, is the greatest way to get it out of this place through here, down on paper. And you can always come back to it. And then the other way is, when you reflect on it, is to actually say it out loud, to put it into existence. And, that action form of it is, a way that you're going to create a space for yourself, that establish boundaries, that self-love, from your own heart and the people you love, because they don't realize that they are taking advantage of you. I don't believe anybody in your family truly takes on the malice of that. They just, we're human. We enjoy comfort. So if you get a little bit of comfort, you want a little bit more of it. And, just like ice cream, you can only have one scoop. And now we know that turns into 2 scoops or 3 scoops.
Or the whole thing.
Or you eat the whole carton. So it's okay. A little self-love, a little extra ice cream, no big deal. But work on it this week where, you have what you're going to do, put it in your journal, on a piece of paper, and then speak it. You'll create that action plan for yourself. That'll warm your heart. And when it comes to having it be sacred, you can learn from that and maybe teach your
Give
kids.
time to yourself. Take the time to exercise. Take time to read. I started reading the Bible again. I read it. I started in junior high, and I probably finished it in college. Yes, it took me a long time, but there wasn't a night that I wasn't reading in the Bible. And now I started reading the Bible again, and I started from the beginning. And I'm in awe. It's like I never read it before. And the stuff that I'm learning, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And going through a divorce, figuring this out with my children, my vows meant everything to me. Marriage meant everything to me. And, I'm going off on a tangent again. Sorry, people. But I just want to say to everybody out there, if you read the Bible, there was so much going on in that Bible. Marriages, all different kinds of kids from every which way, and starting over again and over again to get it right. And you can start new and fresh every day, and God will forgive your sins and He will show you the way. reading the Bible has been so inspirational to me, and I get excited about it to see what the next story is going to be. And what is the show, Ryan, or the movie that everyone watches? It's a killing show. It's what is it called? Where all these people get knocked off.
Like Survival?
No, I'll come back to it. I'll remember it. But in some ways, I feel like if you can handle watching that and you get excited about that, wait till you read the Bible. People die in the Bible. People have sins in the Bible. God will show you the forgiveness and how you can start over and the grace that can be given unto you. Maybe it wasn't the right thing to do, talk about the killing show, and I'll remember what it is because I suck at remembering. Please. But I just know it's something that attracted everybody to watch.
Between this episode and the next episode.
I will. Oh, I remember what my story was about. Because when I read the Bible, there are so many characters. That's what I was getting to. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, now where did this person come from? And it reminds me of this movie. And I'm like, if people can watch that movie and track, the Bible's not hard to track. Like, there's a lot of people going on, but it all comes together. It's amazing. The stories are amazing.
66 books in one.
Yeah. And your story out there is amazing. Ryan, your story is amazing. I've been through a lot. You're going to hear both our stories throughout these podcasts. And I want to inspire everyone today to love yourself for who you are. Find what your niche is. Find how you can give God's love to other people. We're not all built the same way. And thank God, that's same with me being a nurse. When I make assignments and I put nurses in certain rooms, they all have these special things, and I try to figure out who is going to be the best fit. All nurses can walk into every room, but I truly look at each individual and be like, this person can handle this person. Everyone has beautiful souls and different niches with different people. And us nurses always say, thank God you like to do your job and I like to do my job, because we all can't work in the same areas. Same with you in life. We all can't do the same thing. And thank God, because everyone has so many gifts to give. And if we can inspire you today to find your gifts, that's what we want you to do.
That sounds good to me. And so thank you guys for tuning in. We'll make sure to figure out what movie Lisa brought up when we don't know for sure.
Let me know if you know it. I'm going to find out as soon as I go to bed tonight. And I just got to show you my shirt today.
Right. Not today, Satan. Not today.
Not today, Satan.
Perfect. Well, hey, much love, much gratitude. We love everybody tuned in today. And we'll catch you on the flip. Have a good night.
And Jesus loves you. And so do we.
All right.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.